When it comes to brakes, another important item to check is the brake rotor or brake disc itself. Whether it's on a motorcycle and it's a hydraulic brake, or on a car, or even on a bicycle if it's got a disc brake, the same principles apply to the rotors. Rotors wear. Not only the brake pads wear, but the rotors themselves wear. Not at the same rate as brake pads, but more about it in a minute. So on the rotor itself, you will see a number stamped into it that states its minimum permissible safe thickness. Come on in a little closer, take a look at it. This one says it's a metric bike. Minimum thickness, min TH 3.5 millimeters. On another model here, it's got a minimum thickness of how do I do this? There, it's upside down, but you guys can see it barely. 4.5 millimeters on that one. So different brakes have different numbers stamped into them. So 4.5 mils here, 3.5 mils on this one. Now, as I said, the rotors wear just as brake pads in the brakes do, but brake pads are supposed to wear much faster, so it should be a softer compound. What happens is, with aftermarket brake pads, if you change it to a harder compound, the brake pads will last longer, but it's gonna chew up your brake rotors a lot faster because it's a harder compound in the brake pad. So you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna save some money. I'm gonna save some money on brake pads. They're gonna be needed less frequent servicing. Yeah, not entirely, but because what do you do when you have to change, say, 2 of these at the front and 1 at the rear? It's $500 or whatever, just manufacturer's price tag on these ones. These are so hundreds of dollars, extremely expensive on these ones. So do yourself a favor and please use soft compound brake pads, original equipment manufacturers brake pads in your brakes, because the aftermarket ones are going to chew up your brake rotors. So back to the thickness. You might say, okay, I'm going to show you this one. So you take a caliper and you just measure thickness, but it's not that simple because these rotors do not wear evenly. So you might be thinking, oh, I took a correct measurement here and I know how to read a caliper, or what? Yeah, this is a caliper. I know how to read it and I'm saved. Not entirely, because the brake pads are smaller than the rotors. Consequently, not the whole surface of the rotor wears. What it means is that not the whole surface of the rotor is even. Brake pads don't touch the edge here. I'm just gonna, oops, now it's ugly, but you kind of get the idea. I'm trying to color it with blue. There so you can see it. Brake pads don't touch the very edge of the rotor, and brake pads don't touch the very bottom of the, I'll try to make it blue there for you. They don't touch the very outside edge of the surface of the rotor either. So if you try to measure with your calipers this way across, it's not going to be a correct or a meaningful measurement, because you're measuring worn and new parts at the same time. You're not getting a correct reading. Let me try to illustrate it here with this one that I took off. Actually, I drew some pictures. So on a new brake pad, I'm gonna use this bicycle one because this is the easiest to handle in front of the camera. So you're taking a measurement this way, like so. But you have a ridge at the top, along the top edge, and you have a ridge on the bottom. On it, the cross section of a new brake pad looks like this, okay? And I drew it this way, that you're looking at the brake rotor on its edge. I didn't draw the whole thing, just I drew only the top. So please notice that this is 5 squares across. So this is how a new looks like. It's got the same thickness up top as it has on the bottom, and in this drawing the brake pads, exert force this way, okay? And in theory, so this is round one. A worn looks like a little bit lopsided. I made it a trapezoid, and please notice that it's still 5 squares across here, but it's only 3 squares across here because the rotors wear unevenly. They wear more along the top, they wear more along here than here. What it means is that they wear more here, this would be the top on the outside circumference, and they wear less along here, okay? So they wear way more there, and they do not wear so much there because the pressure on the brake pads on a hydraulic brake piston like this is not even, and there's gonna be more wear here. Just go with it because of the uneven pressure in the system, and it's really tricky to make it even. So what actually happens is you're gonna end up with this shape because the brake pads are not touching the very top of the brake rotor, so you're gonna have a shoulder there, and notice that it's 5 squares across there, and it's also 5 squares across here. So and along this length here, where the brake rotors actually engage, this much surface of the rotor has been worn away by the brake pads. Same on the other side, just about there. You get the idea. So to measure the thickness on the brake rotor accurately, don't use a calipers, okay? Please use a micrometer, which bypasses these problems, and you can come down you can skip by the top edge with this mushroomed end, and you can measure it somewhere close to the top, somewhere halfway through, and somewhere further down, and you can just average out your measurements. This is what I mean. Take your micrometer. If you need a refresher how to read a micrometer, please find it among my videos. So you take a measurement somewhere here close to the top, so that the very edge of the brake rotor, where the thickness of it is unaffected by brake pad wear and rotor wear. So take a measurement here, move it further in, take a measurement here, and move it further down the line closer to this black part here, and take a last measurement there, and measure out and average out your measurements, okay? Lastly, I'm just gonna show you, and you're gonna have to listen for it. If I apply a pair of calipers this way and apply pressure on the jaws of the caliper, you can hear that it's wobbly. I can't quite come around with the camera to show you a better angle, but it is wobbly because it is wider here along the top edge than it is here, and there is already, after 6,000 kilometers, there's already a distinct difference in thickness between the top and the middle of this brake rotor, okay? So when you check your brake rotors, keep that one in mind. With the calipers, you can also make it work, but it's finicky. You have to use this part of the caliper's jaws here. How do I do this? Yeah, there you can see there's a gap between the caliper jaws. That blackness there is a gap. So if you can rotate your caliper something like that, so that it's bypassing, with this built-in gap, it's bypassing the thicker top edge, and make sure that you're not clamping on the the thicker bottom edge either, so you're skipping the thicker parts that are unaffected by brake wear, and you really only measure it on the part of the rotor that's actually affected by wear. But even so, because the brake wears in a trapezoid cross section, these calipers will only give you an approximate thickness. You really have to go for a micrometer, yeah? Have fun measuring. Be safe with your brakes.